Hey everyone, Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. We got a very important part to today's adventure. But before we get into that, Paul Nielsen, thank you very much for your support over on Patreon. And guys, as always, analytics are very important, so please take a look at these stats down below, and don't forget to drop a like and a comment to help fuel the algorithm. And if this is your first time here, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss another upload from the channel. And if you want to support even further, consider becoming a patron or a YouTube channel member. You get exclusive access to content that I don't place on the normal platform, plus you get early access to everything that I do release. But with all that being said, let's get into what if Ash won the Hoenn League Part 17. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's part with Ash as he stands directly across from his final opponent of the gym challenge in the Hoenn region, Norman. The two have said nothing since Ash showed up this morning. The truth is, May and Brock have been here for 3 days, while Ash has been handling some important events that needed to be taken care of, and this was the only time that it could be done. But the boy arrived back at the Pokemon Center late last night to have his team checked up on and make any changes that would be needed before this battle. Now Ash and Pikachu stand across from Norman with a smile on their face, with May, Lola, and Brock watching from the sidelines and Max secretly watching from a crack in the door. The leader breaks the silence, telling Ash that he didn't think he would ever show up. Our hero replies that he had some stuff that needed to be taken care of, but things are way better now. Norman says that he can see that Ash has grown a lot despite the setback that he has had. So, in order to test the boy, they will be having a full battle, 6 Pokemon each. The last one standing takes the win. Smiling, Ash says he has no problem with that, as Pikachu jumps in at the boy's command. Sparking, the mouse shows confidence as Norman prepares his first Pokemon, calling on the very dazed normal type, Spinda. May comments to her mom and Brock that she's curious to what Spinda is capable of. Lola says that Norman has been working hard to build up a team of strong Pokemon, as your father has always had one goal in mind. He wants to challenge the Pokemon League and take the reins as champion. May looks on intrigued about this revelation as we flash back to the day our heroes arrived at the edge of Petalburg City. The three are planning to head to the gym, however Ash suddenly stops. What's wrong? Brock asks. Ash looks silently into the city, then back at the woods behind it. May questions if Ash is worried about Max and him trying something, because her dad won't let that happen. Ash simply shakes his head. Listen guys, we've experienced a lot since we've come to Hoenn. However, there is something that I still need to do. It has to be done before I can take this gym battle, as this is the only time that it can be fulfilled. Well, we'll come with you, May says. But Ash shakes his head no. This is something that only he and his Pokemon can do. He tells them that he has to go into the Petalburg woods for a few days, but he will be back once he is done what he needs to do. May insists that they all go together, but Brock stops her. You do what you need to, Ash. We'll be here when you get back. Smiling, Ash turns, heading down a different path. May asks if it's a good idea to let him go by himself. If he's going where I think he is, then Ash is right in it being something that only he and his Pokemon can do, Brock says. Let's trust his decision. Reluctantly, May takes Brock's advice as they turn to head to the gym and prepare for Ash's return. Now we flash back to the present. The battle with Pikachu and Spinda is an interesting one. Norman is proving that he is worthy to be considered the strongest gym leader in the region with the way he handles this Pokemon. Spinda, in its consistent state of confusion, has proven difficult for Ash and Pikachu to handle, as they haven't been able to get a fix on its battle pattern due to the normal type sporadic movement. Norman says that he was hoping for more. After all of the contests and gym battles he's had, the leader expected Ash to have a little bit more flair to his battle style. However, Ash doesn't seem to be worried. After watching Spinda's battle style, the boy thinks that he may have a way to take down the drunken normal type. Now Pikachu, use Quick Attack. You tried that once before, Ash. It didn't work then, and it won't work now, Norman declares. Now, Spinda, use Teeter Dance. The leader is feeling confident. However, this is where Ash is going to display he did learn from their earlier encounter when he tells Pikachu to keep up the quick attacks, but just run around the battlefield randomly. This throws everyone off guard, as Pikachu stays as far away from Spinda as possible, basically running in circles to keep it and Norman guessing passing. Smiling, Ash tells Pikachu to keep it up. They're almost ready. Norman knows the boy is up to something, so to throw him off, the leader decides to go on the offense, calling for a feint attack to strike the electric mouse. It's here we see Spinda use aggression that no one saw coming to close the gap between it and Pikachu. This results in the bear throwing its full body at the mouse to hit it for a great deal of damage. However, Ash has the oddest response to this, commanding his starter to stop and take it. Doing so, Pikachu is met with a great deal of damage as this was completely unguarded. At first, it looks like Ash has thrown this battle, with even Norman telling the boy that his plan was a bit foolish. However, Ash just tells him to wait. He will see what Ash has planned. Norman looks closely at Spinda, then the leader realizes it. The normal type is unable to really move. That's when it sets in. Ash was using the movement of Pikachu to build up the static in its fur. The longer it ran, the more the mouse charged up, and Norman literally walked right into the trap. Smiling, Ash decides it's time to go on the offensive, commanding for an Iron Tail. Norman tries to respond with a Dynamic Punch, but Spinda is unable to move, and it takes the Steel type attack at point blank range, knocking out Norman's first Pokemon and giving Ash the first win. Recalling his mom, the leader tells Ash that he's surprised the boy was able to come up with something like that. He waited a long time for their rematch, and he was starting to think that the boy would never make it back here. However, the leader can see it's because Ash wanted to make sure that he was ready, and Norman is going to have to step up his game a bit if he hopes to keep Ash from his badge. Recalling Pikachu for the time being, Ash tells Norman that this battle has been on the forefront of his mind since the day that he lost to him. The difference in their Pokemon was astounding, and Ash knew that he would have to advance his skills if he wanted to win. The leader smiles. Ash may be the hardest challenge he has had this gym season, so he wants to make sure that he doesn't disappoint. Calling on his second Pokemon, Linoone. All the while, from the door, looking into the battle area, Max watches, whispering, "Come on, Dad. Ash is a nothing trainer. Stop playing around and beat him already." However, Max is going to get a harsh reality check when he sees Ash's next Pokemon. Grumpig, I choose you. This is where we flash back to the day when May and Brock arrived at the gym. They are greeted by both Norman and Lola. However, with no Ash, Norman grows concerned. He had been preparing the last couple of weeks for their arrival to battle Ash. May tells her dad not to worry. Ash is off handling some personal things, so he'll be running a little late. Well then, it will give me more time to tighten up my team, Norman responds with vigor. This is where May sees Max for the first time since Dewford. The boy looks at her with utter betrayal. He has no trust in the girl after she turned him in to her parents. This is where Lola interrupts, telling May not to worry about Max. He's mad at you now, but he'll get over it. Things have changed so much since he's been gone that he doesn't know how to accept it. That's why I think that he has been acting this way. Though after what he did to your friend Ash and stealing his Pokeballs, your father has been working him like a mighty hyena. He's been on cleanup duty in the habitat ever since he got back. I just don't want him to hate me, May responds, but I didn't know how to handle the way he was acting. It's not your fault, Lola says. Max has always had trouble accepting new things. Don't you remember when he went to school? It was only a week before we had to take him out and homeschool him. But don't burden yourself with thoughts like this. Just enjoy your time home. There is a month till the Grand Festival, so you should use this time to train. May thinks about what her mom said as we flash back to the present time. This is where we find the battle with Grumpig and Linoone in full swing. The battle is more intense than the last one. Norman had realized that Grumpig possessed extraordinary psychic abilities, so in order to match this, he called for a belly drum to maximize his rodent's attack, though this did cut its health in half. Ash didn't see a problem with this, thinking Norman had miscalculated, so he tried to end it with a Psywave. However, this was all part of the plan to throw Ash off of his next move, a rest that sent Linoone into Slumberland as the Psywave hit it. Ash was unsure of what Norman's game was here, but still confident that he could win, though it may take a little longer, so he called for a Swift that hit for more damage. But Norman smiles as Linoone's eyes shoot open as the stars close in on the normal type. The leader then calls for a slash that cuts through them and into the gut of Grumpig for some serious damage. While this wasn't enough to knock out the Psionic Swine, the battle is close to being over. Knowing they need to act fast, Ash calls for a Psywave once more. However, Linoone has the perfect counter when Norman commands for a dig. Tunneling below the battlefield, Linoone evades the attack. Ash tells Grumpig to try and track the normal type's movement underground. However, the pain it is in from the earlier slash is causing it a lack of focus. Norman sees this and takes full advantage, calling for Linoone to surface with another slash that ends the battle and tying up the score. Ash recalls his psychic type, thanking it for the effort that it put in, though truth be told, it didn't seem like much with this overwhelming attack presence that Linoone has. Knowing that this could be trouble, Ash pulls out a ball from his belt, as Norman smiles confident that he has full control of this battle. Now, we flash back to the night of day 1. Everyone is having dinner. However, while May and Brock are making conversation with Norman and Lola, Max is quiet. So quiet that is making the whole meal awkward to say the least. It is at this point that May decides to try and engage with the boy. However, this is met with silence from Max. The tension in this moment is something that cannot be ignored. This causes Norman to speak up, telling Max to stop acting so childish. He is the only one to blame for the position that he is in. This causes an outburst from Max, causing him to yell that no one cares about him. No one wants to hear what he has to say. The boy then storms off. Norman stands to address this. However, Lola stops him, telling the leader that Max needs to cool off, and so does he. So let's enjoy the rest of the meal. They then switch the conversation to Brock, as they know nothing about the breeder. This leads to Brock mentioning that he was Ash's first ever gym battle, as he is the leader of Pewter City. They then mention about how Ash won his 5th ribbon and his 7th badge at the Dewford gym with Vigoroth. Norman is impressed by this. The leader is now more excited to face the boy than ever. All the while, Max is just outside of the kitchen, listening to how Ash won his ribbon and his 7th badge with none other than Vigoroth of all of the choices. This causes the boy to tear up and run off to his room. Back to the battle, Ash wastes no time in calling on his next choice, declaring, "Vigoroth, I choose you." As the normal type pops from the ball, Norman is curious about something, asking if that is the same Vigoroth as the one that was here on the day that Ash first came to the gym. The boy confirms this, stating that the way he caught it was by mistake, but it quickly became one of his best Pokemon. Norman thinks long and hard about this statement, as the leader is beginning to understand what is happening with his son. However, promised himself that he wouldn't let any outside interference determine the outcome of this battle. So the leader pushes this to the back of his mind as the next battle is about to begin. Ash takes the first move, calling for a Crush Claw. However, a dig from the rodent makes this move inactive, as Linoone tunnels below the battlefield. Ash yells for Vigoroth to stop. They need to be still. The normal type does so, nearly going motionless. It's here that it can feel the movement in the ground. Seeing its opening, the sloth barrels down the battlefield just as Norman tells Linoone to surface for an attack. However, they are unprepared for the aggression that follows, as a Crush Claw is brought down on Linoone's head as it breaks the ground. This results in a crushing sound as it can't get out of the hole. Once Vigoroth steps back, they can see that Linoone is unable to continue due to the spirals in its eyes. Norman recalls his mom, telling Ash that Vigoroth has been raised well. He's never seen one with the ability to restrain itself like this one does. Ash says it took a lot of time, but he and Vigoroth figured it out. Now they just need someone to push them to their limit. Smiling, Norman states that his next choice will be the Pokemon that does so, as he calls on Zangoose for his 3rd choice. Looking it over, Ash can tell that this won't be a pushover, so he's going to have to be careful. Vigoroth, stay on your toes. Let's test what they can do, the boy yells. With the grunt of its name, the battle starts with Norman taking the first call in an aerial ace. This is quickly countered with a feint attack from Ash, causing a stalemate. Seeing that they are even, Norman turns up the heat by calling for a Crush Claw, but this too is met with one from Vigoroth with the same power. Seeing that they are getting nowhere, Norman decides to take a more defensive approach, telling Zangoose to just wait. They have nothing but time. This causes Ash to order the same. However, what the boy hasn't caught on to yet is this is a test to see how far their control over Vigoroth's high agitation really goes. But this won't take long, as the normal type is beginning to twitch. Ash tells it to hold steady, but Vigoroth can't hold it anymore. Its inner aggression has taken over, and it has gone on the attack. Realizing that they have no choice, Ash orders a Crush Claw. However, Norman remains steadfast, telling his mon to remain in its place, for their time is coming. Then, when Vigoroth brings down the claw, Zangoose just takes it, but rolls a bit at the command of its trainer, only to launch a counter into the gut of Vigoroth for double the damage, sending it into the gym wall and leaving a crater in its wake. At first, it looks like this was a decisive knockout, but Vigoroth is able to peel itself off the wall. While it took a great amount of damage, it can still battle. Smiling, Ash calls for a slack off to regain some of its health. Realizing this will put the mid-stage back into the battle, Norman calls for an aerial ace that connects for some damage. Ash can see that the leader is going to keep applying pressure to end this, so he won't be able to rely on slack off to finish off the battle. But he decides to take advantage of their closeness of Zangoose, calling for a yawn that causes it to become very drowsy. Knowing the delayed result of the move, Norman yells for Zangoose to finish this with another Crush Claw. Ash tells his mon to wait. They can't waste any of this chance. What follows is a surprise, as Vigoroth just takes the Crush Claw, only for it to maintain its stance with Zangoose too close to dodge in its retaliation as the normal type brings down its own Crush Claw that strikes, knocking out Zangoose and bringing this battle to a close. Norman is surprised by Ash's actions. He used Yawn to lure in Zangoose with the intention of trying to end the battle quickly, only for it to backfire on the leader. However, as Norman recalls his Mon, Vigoroth collapses. The Mon isn't knocked out, but that last move caused a lot of damage. Ash rushes to its side as Max enters the room to check on his old friend. The boy runs to his side, blocking Ash from checking on Vigoroth. "No, you won't hurt my friend anymore," the boy yells. This causes Ash to stop as Max looks up at him with an intention that says, "I will hurt you if you come any closer." At this moment, Norman steps in, telling Max that he isn't allowed in this room. The battle will remain untainted by the influences of someone from the outside. Now leave. However, the boy refuses to obey the command of his father, telling Norman that he won't take his friends from him. "Both of you don't care about anything but yourselves. Vigoroth is too hurt to battle." This proceeds into what could be an incoherent babbling on Max's part that just ends in tears as he hugs Vigoroth. Kneeling down, Ash simply tells Max that he wasn't going to use it anymore. He can see that it took a lot of damage to get that win, so he was going to have it sit the rest of the battle out, so Max doesn't have to worry about it. This causes the boy to stop crying for a moment. Norman then demands that Max leave the battlefield. He will not cause any further delays. However, the boy refuses. He won't leave Vigoroth. Norman then looks at Lola, almost to say, "Come get the boy and take him away." However, Ash is the voice of reason here, telling Norman that it's okay for Max to stay. He can sit on the side with Vigoroth as Brock tends to its wounds. Seeing the resolve in his son, Norman relents. "Fine, but you don't move. If I see you even twitch, then you will be banned from this battle and any in the future. Am I clear?" Max nods as he and Brock help Vigoroth to the sidelines for treatment. May begins to scold the boy under a breath, but is ignored while Max has his attention split between Vigoroth and the battle. The boy is mad at his dad, but there's one thing that he can't ignore. Ash needs to lose. Then maybe his dad will take Vigoroth from Ash when he comes to his senses and sees that Ash is just a hack trainer. "Come on, Dad, beat him." However, as Max continues with his obsession on returning things to what they were, from the doorway of the battlefield, Surskit looks on, beginning to feel neglected by the one person it had put all of its trust in. This is where we flash back to the second day. Norman has summoned his son to the training area behind the gym. Norman tells Max that he will listen, not talk. There will be an official battle with Ash. Max will not only be banned from the battle, but not allowed to engage with Ash until after. This causes the boy to speak up, only for Norman to tell him to be silent. "You have caused enough trouble by your actions. I will not have you interfere with this battle. If it is compromised, then you will risk the certification of the gym. As a gym leader, this is something that I cannot allow, so stay away until after the battle." Max just hangs his head, telling his dad that he understands, before walking off with the feeling that his father cares more for Ash than him. Now we move to the present, with Ash and Norman standing across from each other. While the interruptions have agitated the leader a bit, he is happy to get back to the battle, telling Ash that he wants to change the rhythm of things, sending in his next choice, the very beautiful Delcatty, that bounces as it emerges. Getting the hint of the tone change, Ash pulls a ball from his belt. "Mawile, I choose you." The Steel Princess pops from its ball with a spin, demonstrating that it is ready for a delightful time. The two trainers give their first commands as we flash back to the day that Ash entered the Petalburg Woods. He releases Grovyle from its ball. The grass type immediately recognizes the area that they are in and looks at Ash. The boy says that he knows that Grovyle has had a lot on his mind over their journey, so if they want to grow stronger, then it needs to be at peace. The only way they can do that is to truly clear its mind, so they're going back to where it all began, where he first caught the wood gecko. The two then set off in search of Grovyle's home. Now we move back to the battle. The tone has completely shifted. Ash and Norman are treating this like a contest battle, using their opponent's attacks to amplify their own. This has resulted in a very long, drawn-out battle with neither side really getting any damage in. It seems both are perfectly matched. May comments that she remembers playing with Skitty when it was young. That was some of the funnest times she had ever had in her childhood. But now it's so strong, even showing some flair in contest-style battling. Lola comments that when May was young, Norman used to use it a lot in context battle, though the girl may not remember it. The truth is, this is one Pokemon that connects you two together in more ways than one. At this moment, May realizes that this is the reason Norman wasn't mad at her not becoming a trainer. His time in contest showed him that there was more than one fun way to bond with Pokemon. The girl finds that in this moment, she has a newfound respect for her father as she begins to cheer for both Ash and Norman. Max sees this as a betrayal and begins to cheer for his dad, telling Delcatty to crush Mawile. Brock tells the boy that it's unsportsmanlike to act like that, but Max is beyond the point of listening to the breeder, telling Brock to just make sure Vigoroth is okay and mind his own business. Don't worry, it'll be fine as far as you're concerned. But Vigoroth isn't the one that everyone is worried about. This causes Max to go silent as Brock steps back to his seat to enjoy the rest of the battle. However, this is when Ash decides that he won't be holding back anymore, revealing Mawile's Sand Whip. This proves to be the difference maker as Norman struggles to find an opening in their defense. However, he thinks he can create one, ordering Delcatty with a Shadow Ball that breaks the connection to the sand. However, Ash reveals that this was only a momentary setback, ordering Mawile to use its newest variation in the Lava Whip. Combining Hidden Power Fire with the Sandstorm, Mawile creates a Molten Whip that strikes the cat, finally bringing this battle to an end. Norman is impressed. Out of all the contests that he has done, he never saw a combination like that. Recalling Delcatty, the leader finds himself in a compromising position. He has only 2 Pokemon to Ash's 4. The boy has come a long way since arriving in Hoenn, but that doesn't mean that he will just roll over. Calling on one of his strongest Pokemon, the 3rd stage evolution, Exploud. This gets a response from everyone. May comments that she didn't know her dad had one, while Max thinks that this thing looks strong. Now that Vigoroth is out of the way, it'll crush the last of Ash's Pokemon for sure. Meanwhile, Ash looks it over. He knows that the battle with Mawile has taken a lot out of it, so he decides to recall it for someone fresh as the call rings out. Flygon, I choose you. With the dragon emerging from the ball, Norman smiles. Exploud is his newest Pokemon, so he would love to test it against something of this caliber. The battle begins with Ash calling for a Dragon's Breath. However, he's going to find out that this isn't going to be even close to the power that he will need to compete with Exploud, as Norman gives up one simple command: Hyper Voice. The Dragonic aura dissipates as the frequency of Hyper Voice rips through the gym. The sound is so intense that it causes everyone to lose focus as Flygon is driven into the gym wall right next to where Vigoroth had been before it. While the damage wasn't nearly the same, this message is sent. Ash will have to be on his toes if he and Flygon wants to take this victory. This is where we flash back to the second day that Ash and his Pokemon were in the Petalburg Woods. They have been walking forever, but there is a problem. While some things seem familiar to Grovyle, the deeper they get into the woods, the less familiar things feel. This has caused the trio to become lost, as they have been wandering in circles since dawn. Grovyle is beginning to lose confidence that they will ever find its home and family. This causes the wood gecko to begin to break down as it drops to its knees and sobs uncontrollably. Ash tries to control the grass type, saying that they can't give up hope. They won't be leaving here until they find the place that they are looking for. While this is meant to cheer up the grass type, it has the opposite effect, causing Grovyle to grow louder in its agony. However, this has an unexpected result, as from within the bushes, a rustling can be heard. This causes everyone to become on edge, but this is going to be only for a moment, as from within the brush emerges a familiar old Pokemon, the Mentor Trico that Ash met on the day that he caught Grovyle. The old grass type is a sight for sore eyes as Grovyle rushes to it and embraces its old master. However, nothing is said as Grovyle weeps, finally knowing that its family is okay. Now we move back to the present battle with Flygon and Exploud. While the dragon has great power, problem that it faces is it can't get close to the normal type. Every move that it tries is met with a counter of a Hyper Voice or a Water Pulse. This even resulted in a confusion at one point, though Ash was able to get through to it, but it did cost them some damage on their part. This is where we find Ash thinking about how he can win this. He needs to create an opening, but he thinks there might be a way. Ash orders Flygon to use Dig. This should prevent any sound-based attacks from affecting them. The dragon tunnels down, with Norman wondering what Ash is up to, but they are going to find out firsthand as the ground below Exploud starts to shake. Thinking that Flygon is going to surface, Norman orders a Stomp. However, when Exploud brings down its foot, the ground swallows it as the battlefield is slowly being turned into a sand trap. Suddenly, Exploud finds itself waist deep. This is where Ash makes his move, calling for a Dragon Burst. This causes the ground to light up in Dragonic Aura that strikes Exploud. The normal type finally takes the first damage of the battle. Feeling confident, Ash decides that it's time to end this by calling for a bite from Flygon. Closing the gap, the dragon lifts its head from underneath the ground to chomp down on Exploud. However, its hands are still free, and Ash is going to watch in real time as his dragon dragon is met with the fourth move of Exploud, an ice punch that slams Flygon's head into the ground, knocking it out in the process. This leaves Ash in shock. That was a for sure win, he thought. However, he must recall his dragon as it is unresponsive to his commands. This gets Max to begin to celebrate. That's it, Dad. Take his Pokemon out one by one. There's no way that hack can beat you. However, this just triggers a glare from Norman, causing the boy to silence himself once more. Ash contemplates his next choices, but he knows that he needs to keep at least one of his Pokemon as fresh as possible, so he declares Mawile, I choose you. The Steel type emerges from its ball, a little fatigued from the last battle. However, Ash thinks that its contest style of battling will give him the edge needed to take the win. Ash starts by calling for a sandstorm to blanket the field from sight. The boy is feeling like this has the advantage, though he's going to find out firsthand that he's letting his guard down too early, as Norman commands for a water pulse, but he uses it in a similar way to Mawile's lava whip, as the sandstorm begins to turn to mud, striking both of the combatants. While Exploud does take damage, this is minimal compared to Mawile, as its attack has backfired, with it being super effective damage. Realizing they are losing, Ash calls for hidden power, but this isn't enough to prevent the damage, as the mud bomb knocks out his Mon before the fire can strike their opponent. Recalling the Steel type, Ash looks to Pikachu. Alright buddy, it's time for you to get back in. Sparking, the mouse jumps in, ready to take on this titan of a Pokemon. Well, it seems that your lead has slowly been withered away, Norman comments. However, Ash seems unfazed, smiling back at his opponent. We worked hard to get here, Norman, so we won't let a couple of losses stop us now. Pikachu, use Iron Tail. However, this is countered with an Ice Punch that nullifies its effects. This causes Max to cheer on Exploud. Pound Pikachu into the ground, he yells. Lola tells her son to quiet down. Let the battle play out. But the boy refuses, seemingly possessed at the sight of his dad turning the tables on Ash. However, this is where Max is going to be in for a very rude awakening. The Iron Tail was only a diversion. Ash then reveals his true motives, using it as a conduit for Pikachu's electric-type moves, flooding Exploud with electricity as it unleashes its most powerful move, Thunder. This causes the normal type to take a knee, as that was far more than it was expecting. Seeing his control slipping, Norman calls for a Hyper Voice. Exploud tries to bellow out the sonic sound, but is met with an Iron Tail from the mouse to its chin. This sends the attack upwards. This is when Norman realizes what Ash's plan is, as the mouse is on the attack again with another Iron Tail. They intend to keep up this pace and whittle Exploud down. Realizing they need to do something, Norman commands for an Ice Punch on the ground to intercept the Iron Tail. But this isn't enough, as Pikachu pivots to its Electro Volley, sending 2 orbs to break the ice wall, with a third one striking Exploud for the final bit of damage to bring this battle to a close. Norman recalls his Mon, complimenting Ash on his use of Iron Tail and Pikachu's electricity like that. It seems you have learned a lot from battling in those contests. Ash smiles, telling Norman that he couldn't have done it without May. She is a big reason that the boy was able to grow over the last year. Well, let's hope that she learned something from you as well. This praise of Ash strikes hard with Max. How could his dad say such nice things to him? He just lost another Pokemon. Max is having trouble wrapping his head around this. However, he rationalizes it by telling himself that Norman is trying to lure Ash into a false sense of security. Yeah, that's it. He saved his strongest Pokemon for last and wants Ash to be off his game. This thought is given weight when Norman tells Ash that he's been saving his strongest Pokemon for their last encounter. Ash knows that this has to be the Vigoroth he battled the last time he was here, but the boy is going to be in for a rude awakening when what emerges from the ball is not the mid-stage, but the final evolution known as Slaking. The bulking behemoth emerges with a loud thud that shakes every inch of the gym. For a moment, Ash slightly hesitates, which Norman can see. Oh, come on, Ash. After all that you've been through today, this is the Pokemon that causes you to doubt yourself? While the boy knows that Norman's question is valid, our hero tells him that he can sense the power of it. The strength of it is far greater than the last time that they battled. That was the whole point, Norman says. I've waited a year for this rematch. Since I first met you, I knew there was something different. I've waited to see how you would grow and how your experiences in the Hoenn region would shape the next steps of your journey as a trainer. Now, show me what you have learned. Norman's declaration causes everyone in the gym to fall silent. Even Max has nothing to say, only thinking that Slaking is the most impressive Pokemon that he has ever seen in his father's possession. Don't worry, Norman. We won't disappoint. Now, Pikachu, use Quick Attack. The mouse bolts down the field. However, this is allowed to connect as Norman orders a Bulk Up. Remembering this from his battle with Brawly, Ash knows that they need to end this fast, so he goes all out, calling for a Thunder. The mouse lets loose with everything it has lighting up the normal type. However, Slaking is unfazed, barely even batting an eyelid at this. As the attack subsides, Norman is ready to go all out, as he calls for an end to this battle with a Body Slam. slam. Ash calls for Pikachu to evade, but the mouse is too tired, and Slaking demonstrates a speed that its bulky size should not be capable of as it drives the mouse into the battlefield, bringing this battle to an end. This causes Max to erupt in excitement. "That's what you get. There's no way you can beat my dad," the boy yells. This causes a look from Norman, to which Max brings down his celebration. He doesn't want to get kicked out, as he needs to see this hack trainer lose to a better trainer than him. Then everything will be made right by Norman, and Max's life will return to normal. But the boy still has to wait for Ash to reveal his final Pokemon. However, there is only a handful that he can use. Snorunt, Grovyle, they're too weak. The only real choice is Milotic. While it is strong and the best choice, the Serpent still can't hold a candle to Slaking. Max looks at Ash, daring the boy to bring out his best as he holds the ball as final choice, and we flash back to the day that Ash and Grovyle found the Elder Trico. The Elder has led the group to the location of the Trico tribe. What they find is a flourishing society deep inside the forest. Grovyle is having trouble processing this all. Everyone is alright. The grass type just stands there in awe. They have all grown in the time that it has been away. You see, Ash says, "I told you we would find it. Everyone is okay." It's here that Ash asks Grovyle a question that he's never asked it before. "The reason you decided to join me on my journey was because you wanted to become stronger for them, wasn't it?" The Woodgecko looks at its trainer, then around to everyone. Hesitantly, it nods, having trouble admitting to itself that it was unable to fulfill its own personal goals that it had set out on, feeling like it had failed. But Ash speaks to the contrary, saying that it has achieved what it wanted. However, Ash thinks that there is something else that is holding Grovyle back. Ash says that it's guilt. Grovyle has it set in its mind that everything that it has done has led to nothing but failure. The Woodgecko reacts to this with a flinch. It knows Ash is right, but the grass type doesn't know how to let it go. This is when the Elder signals for them to follow. There is something that they need to see. Both of them look at each other, then follow, unsure where they are going. However, they won't have to wait long, as the area begins to look familiar for both Ash and Grovyle. This is when they come across a large dip in the ground. This is the place that Grovyle's home once stood. This brings up painful memories, as the grass type still blames itself for not being able to stop Team Magma when they attacked. Its lack of power is what caused their home to be destroyed. However, the Elder points to a place in the hole. Suddenly, Ash jumps down with Pikachu, telling Grovyle that it's going to lose if it continues to hold back. Not wanting to be left behind, the Woodgecko uses its agility to beat Ash to the bottom. Smiling, Ash tells Grovyle that he was only kidding, but he thinks that it needs to see this. Ash then points at an area that is next to the now rotted out tree that used to be its home. Walking over, the Woodgecko sees what Ash is pointing at. There, in the dirt, is a small sprout that has begun to emerge from the earth. It's the acorn that Ash planted on the day that they met. You see, Ash says, even though there was a great tragedy that happened here, it doesn't mean that it is what defines this place or the ones that live here. You couldn't do anything to stop this place from being attacked, but that doesn't change the fact that nothing stopped. Everything that happened could not change the fact that everyone was going to grow. They became stronger and more resilient, just like your home was. Kneeling down, Ash looks at the young bud and the now befallen tree. It may still be small, but like you and your family, this tree will one day be stronger than the one before it. Ash then looks at his grass type. It was never an end. It was only a new beginning. The moment you left, the time you evolved, each time you grew, every battle you won or lost, they were all new beginnings. That's why I brought you back here, Grovyle, to show you a new truth that you haven't been able to accept. I figured the only way to get closure is for you to see it with your own eyes, what has happened since you've been away. The mid-stage looks at Ash, then above them, as its whole family has joined them. They all begin to cheer for their brother, showing that they all support it. You see, you just have to let go of your own self-doubt, your own pride. If you do that, then you will unlock a new level of power that no one has ever seen. In this moment, the mid-stage drops to its knees. Then it happens. Grovyle lets out a loud cry, releasing all of its pent-up frustration of its own shortcomings as tears stream down its face. There. It's alright, Ash says. I know that you can grow stronger, just like all of the Trico here. We are family too. Our bond is what keeps us going, and I will never give up on you. Hearing these words, something in Grovyle snaps. The barrier that it has been holding onto gives way, and it begins to glow intensely and overgrow. Standing up, Grovyle yells at the top of its lungs once more, almost as if in this moment it is truly letting go. Smiling, Ash tells Grovyle that they are ready for their gym battle now. There's nothing that will stop them from getting their final badge. However, the glowing around Grovyle isn't done, as it intensifies once more with Ash being blinded from the light. Back in the current time, Ash tells Norman that he respects the effort that he has put in for this battle. A year in the making is something that he has been focused on as well. However, Ash has put in just as much and doesn't plan to lose here. My final Pokemon will see to that. Bring it, Norman yells. Give me everything you have. Throwing the ball, Ash makes a call that no one saw coming. Sceptile, I choose you. As the light fades, everyone looks on in a stunned silence. Grovyle, it evolved. Suddenly, that confidence that Max had in its dad's starts to wane as he gulps. He doesn't know what Ash and it had been through, but there has been some massive growth on their part since the last time the boys saw the Hoenn starter. That's it, Norman says. I can feel it. The bond you have forged with this Pokemon since you caught it. The journey has been one of great triumph and tragedy, but you two refuse to give up. Now, show me the power that you two have unlocked together. Don't worry, Norman. You're going to get exactly what you asked for. Now, Sceptile, use Leaf Blade. The grass type darts down the battlefield, moving faster than it ever has to strike the Kong with its full power. However, this is met with a focus punch that proves to be much more than they expected, as Sceptile is sent sliding back. Realizing they need to go harder because of the bulk up, Ash yells for Sceptile to combine its Leaf Blade with a quick attack. This is successful, allowing the grass type to finally hit. However, Ash notices that Slaking didn't even move at all while taking this. Norman didn't even give it a command. The boy calls the leader out on this. However, Norman just laughs. I was wondering when you would notice that. You see, my Slaking is so strong that it takes something of true power to pique its interest. Otherwise, it'll just loaf around if it doesn't feel that its opponent is worth its time. So you're going to have to demonstrate a lot more power than that. This is cemented when Slaking just seems to sit down, almost to say Sceptile isn't worth its time. This causes a little frustration on the grass type's part, but Ash reminds it they need to do this together. If they don't, then there's no way they can win this. Reluctantly, Sceptile pushes down its urges to do things on its own. Smiling, Ash tells it they just need to be patient. Instead of power, let's try a different approach. Now use Rock Tomb. This catches Norman by surprise as Slaking is now encased in boulders. However, it's still not enough to get the attention of the normal type as it just begins to nod off. Ash chooses to take advantage of this, calling for another Leaf Blade and Quick Attack combo. Sceptile launches its offense, cutting through the boulders to cause some damage to Slaking, but it still isn't enough. Well, Ash, it seems that we're going to have to end this. Slaking and I are both growing bored, and it wouldn't be right if I just gave you a free win. However, Ash tells Norman that there won't be any of that, ordering for a Rock Tomb once more. But this time, the full power of Slaking will be on display as it holds nothing back and speeds down the battlefield to strike the Woodgecko with a focus punch that sends Sceptile into the gym wall. The movement and the power is so much that Ash can do nothing but look forward as Sceptile flies by him before the impact. What power, Ash thinks to himself. That's what Norman has been holding back? Well, it looks like this battle is mine, Norman says as he looks at Sceptile, who appears to be unresponsive. I'm sorry that you couldn't win, Ash, but you can always try again. This causes Max to celebrate. No one can beat his dad. Just as he had said all along, Ash was a hack trainer. Now, all of Max's dreams are going to come true, and his life will be set right. But just as Max bends down to tell Vigoroth that he will be staying with Max from now on, an intense green aura envelops the room. Everyone turns as Sceptile has made its way to its feet. The starter looks at Ash, who is unsure if they can continue after that hit. But Sceptile gives it a look, almost to say, if you want me to trust you, then you have to trust me. Turning, Ash yells that this battle isn't over. Sceptile is just getting started. Well, I guess so, Norman says, and it seems that you have finally piqued Slaking's interest, as the Kong steps forward without being ordered. Ash knows that if Overgrow is active, then they have limited time. Taking another hit like that is out of the question, unless they use that move. With the two combatants back on the field, Norman gives his first command for a body slam. Ash tells Sceptile to use Quick Attack to dodge it. The starter does so, making its way behind Slaking. It's here that Ash reveals Sceptile's newest attack as he calls for a Giga Drain. The grass type begins to latch on to Slaking, siphoning off the normal type's health to replenish his own. This causes Slaking to take a knee as the effect is intensified with Overgrow, but Norman won't let this stand, ordering for a Focus Punch. However, the move fails as with its new health, Sceptile is able to dodge, but the new life has come with a cost as its Overgrow has subsided for the time being. While Ash is happy that they are still in this, there is still a long road ahead of them as Slaking is still standing. Norman has a look on his face, almost to say that he still has this battle won. This is a cause for concern for Ash, so the boy chooses to go on the offense with a flurry of Leaf Blades from Sceptile. However, this is met with a barrage of Focus Punches from Slaking. Unfortunately, Sceptile doesn't have the power to match the normal type and ends up taking some damage in the process ends. This forces the grass type back into Overgrow, which is something that Norman wanted, as he orders for a move that is going to be the deciding factor in this battle: Toxic. Suddenly, Slaking uses the closeness created by Ash to spit a purple ooze on Sceptile, causing a poison to set in. Sceptile takes a knee as its health is slowly drained. Realizing they are on the final leg of this battle, Ash needs to think quick. Tick tock, Norman says. Time is counting down, and so is the health of Sceptile. You better make your move, or your chances of winning will fade away with it. Ash knows Norman is right, but what is he going to do? Overgrow will give Leaf Blade power to compete with Slaking, but Poison will drain his energy. Giga Drain will replenish its health, but not long enough to win the battle. That's when it hits Ash. There is a possible solution, but all of his other Pokemon had time to perfect their combo moves. So if Ash hopes to win, he's gonna have to rely on Sceptile's natural ability. This is when Ash gives an order for an all-out attack, calling for Sceptile to use a Leaf Blade, but to infuse it with the power of its Giga Drain. The grass type looks at Ash, but then nods, agreeing and launching itself with the intent to end this. Knowing Sceptile could present a real threat, Norman commands for Slaking to go on the attack, using every focus punch that it can. What follows is an all-out brawl, as both Pokemon have abandoned any form of defense in favor of causing as much damage as possible. Sceptile's Overglow flares with each drain of its health from the now stacking poison, while with each hit of what Ash has come to call Giga Blade, Slaking slowly loses momentum until it reaches a moment where both launch their final strike. As both Pokemon cross paths and come to a stop with their backs to each other, a moment of tension washes over the room as Sceptile takes a knee with the poison kicking in, and Max celebrates at the fall of the grass starter. Yes, Dad won. There's no way Ash could ever beat him. The boy can't contain himself as he begins to tease Ash about being a lousy trainer, and Vigoroth will be staying with him. However, the boy's celebration is going to come to a sudden halt when a loud thud shakes the gym. Turning, Max sees the one thing that he thought was impossible: Slaking down, unresponsive to any calls from the boy or the leader. This results in Ash being declared the winner, with Sceptile standing back up with a glance at its opponent. In this moment, Sceptile shows a sign of respect by offering Slaking a hand up. The normal type looks at its trainer, then to Sceptile. A tense moment ensues, but the offer is accepted. Both look at each other, accepting the result, proud of the battle that they had. Norman declares Ash the winner and walks out to join the boy on the battlefield. You have obtained a decisive victory today. Please accept this badge as your proof of victory at the... But before he can complete the statement, Max jumps up and grabs the badge from Norman's hand. No, there's no way he could beat my dad. Ash is a nothing trainer. Because of you, everything is messed up, and I won't let you steal my family anymore. The boy then runs off to the Slakoth sanctuary behind the gym and locks himself inside before anyone can catch up. But as everyone arrives to find the door locked, they can hear Max inside crying. Lola knocks on the door asking what's wrong. Why is Max acting like this? The boy goes on a semi-coherent rant about how Ash is a cheater and he's lost everything because of him. There is no way his dad would lose to a cheater like Ash. He's even lost May to him, as she prefers to spend time with Ash than Max. Lola tries to say something, but Norman steps forward, saying to let him handle this. But she is a bit hesitant because Norman can be a bit heavy-handed when it comes to things like this. However, she does step aside as Norman begins to talk. In this moment, he shows a softer side than normal as he talks with Max. Listen, buddy, I know things haven't been easy. Friends are something that has never really been easy for you, and anything that threatens what makes you feel safe is something that makes you feel really scared. Max says nothing, only sobbing behind the door as Norman continues talking, stating that when Max was younger, the leader was really concerned about him. Max's higher than average intelligence when it came to Pokemon made it hard for him to make any friends, causing him to latch on to his family. Then Slakoth showed up from the Petalburg Woods, but it was different than the other ones that were here in the sanctuary, and because of that, Max latched onto it as well, making Slakoth his first real friend. It was like that for a long time, but then May turned 10 and Ash showed up. I could see it in you that day. Something about him just didn't sit right with you. But because your sister was heading out on her own journey, I figured it would do you some good to go with her and allow you to grow and experience the world. But I was foolish in thinking that you were old enough to handle this. I never should have forced this on you, and I'm sorry for putting this type of pressure upon you, son. But there is something that I need you to understand. I gave everything to beat Ash, but he was the better trainer today. And I know you're not going to like what I have to say next, but it's something you need to hear. Ash has never been nothing but nice to to you. From day one, when you guys met, he has treated you like a friend, yet it seems like at every turn, you see him as a threat. I don't think that this is fair to him. The boy has proven to be an upstanding trainer and an even more remarkable young man. From what your sister tells me, he isn't even mad about you stealing his Pokemon. This causes Max to stop crying for a moment as Norman finishes with one final statement. I know you're scared of change because of how poorly it went for you in the past, but there is something that you need to understand. You are growing up. Change is something that is part of that, whether you want it to be or not. The more you fight it, the worse it will be. This causes Max to reflect on things for him over the past year, and in this moment, the boy realizes that his dad does speak some truth to this, as every instance that has gone bad for him was by his own doing for the catalyst. Even May tried to protect him, but Max just threw it back in her face. As he comes to realize this, Ash speaks up, telling the boy not to worry about the badge. He will just find another gym and win there. This is when they hear the lock on the door open. Max pops out, and the first thing he sees isn't his dad or Ash, but Vigoroth and Surskit. The two were worried about the boy, and it's at this moment Max has a realization. Surskit has seen everything that has happened, even hearing what Max had said to Vigoroth, the pain that it must have caused it. Max once again breaks down, asking for them both to forgive the boy. However, both care for Max, so they are quick to do this. Once he is able to get the tears out of his eyes and under control, Max tells his dad that he's sorry. He never meant for things to get this out of control. However, Norman tells the boy that he is not the one who Max should be apologizing to. Turning, the boy knows what he has to do as he tells Ash that he's sorry. He didn't want to lose his sister or Vigoroth. Ash says that he understands. The world can be a scary place, but that's why having friends is so important. They can help you overcome anything. In this moment, Max looks at Ash and Brock, realizing this is exactly what they had been over their travels the past year. But he was too obsessed with what was to realize what had become. Not wanting to hold things back any further, Max gives Ash the badge. Here, you did earn it, he says. Take this and make sure you win the Hoenn League, or it will embarrass the Petalburg gym. Smiling, Ash tells Max that this is what he plans to do. The boy then takes the badge and celebrates with Pikachu, Vigoroth, and Sceptile. They have finally done it. Their entrance to the Hoenn League has been secured. And this is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, did you enjoy this part? How do you feel about the resolution that we had with Max as a character? As I always felt like he was a little flat in the anime, so I wanted to give him a very special arc of his own in this What If. How about the growth that Ash and Sceptile had and its evolution? Was it better than the original, or was it worse? And let's not forget about the battle with Norman. Was it fitting for a final gym battle in the region? Did Norman give some final Voss vibes? Did you enjoy his team? And finally, are you excited for the next part, as Ash must now focus on his 6-on-6 with Tyson in the Grand Festival? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below.
You